Hey everybody, this is Gene Marks. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope that this information I'm going to share with you is helpful. It better be helpful because it is stuff that I'm talking about with my clients and my readers and my community all the time, and it's all about cybersecurity. I'm not going to share with you a bunch of numbers and a bunch of data, during this presentation. We get it. We read the news. We know that there is a huge cybersecurity issue that is continuing on and will continue on for as long as we live. We all know the people that are online are always going to be smarter than the smartest people that are trying to protect our data. There's always going to be ways around things. So all the advice I'm going to give to you and all the things I'm going to talk about to you, there's no guarantee that this is going to protect your business against the cyber threat. What we want to do is we want to minimize the risk. That's what you want to try and do. Because if you don't minimize the risk, and if you do get impacted by a data breach, it's potentially debilitating. It is not only something that can shut down your business for days, if not weeks, but also it could potentially put you out of business as well, which is something that clearly you don't want to happen. Even in that situation, or if you don't go out of business, opening up your data, if you don't do the right things or if you're not practicing the right procedures, and customer data gets taken, could subject you to significant liability as well. And you know what? Thinking about it now, I didn't put in this presentation about getting cyber insurance, but that's something that you definitely want to be doing. You want to talk to your insurance agent, making sure that your general liability or your overall liability policies include cyber insurance clause for any data breaches and interruption to your business or any liabilities relating for that. So should have had that actually. It just occurred to me right now. So make sure that that's included. But putting that aside, I've got 8 things that you need to do to protect your business from a cyber loss from a cyber attack. And again, like I said just now, these 8 things are not going to guarantee you full 100% protection. I mean, the Department of Defense gets hacked. Amazon gets hacked. You got the biggest and the brightest with basically unlimited budgets that are still fighting against, cyber thieves and criminals and people that want to disrupt your business. But as a small business or a small to mid-sized business, there are 8 things that you can be doing that will significantly limit your exposure. So we're going to jump into that. Before we do, I should have introduced myself. I'm a CPA, so I know about numbers and all that. But so I write about 6 times a month for Forbes, and I write on technology. So every Sunday morning at 7 a.m., I have a column that lists the 5 things that happened in technology that week that can affect your business. And then I give my take on how that can affect your business as well. So if you want to keep up on technology, things that are going on, visit me at Forbes.com. I also write on customer relationship management and other workforce management applications as well for Forbes. So at my company, the Marks Group, we're based outside of Philadelphia. We're a technology consulting firm. So we're involved with a lot of small and mid-sized businesses. Freelancers and entrepreneurs, as well as companies with hundreds of employees. We advise them on applications and, of course, security. So just to let you know, that's my cred, and you can take that for what it's worth. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what my smartest clients and what the smartest IT firms that I know are doing to protect their clients from any type of cyber attack. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, in 2022. There are really 4 big threats that are you need to be aware of, whether you're an individual or whether you're running a small business. Now, people can argue that there are more things that are out there, but just in reality, there are just 4 threats. And let me make sure that you're familiar with what they are so you can identify them and you understand, okay? The first, which I'm sure you've heard of, is ransomware, right? So, just to insult your intelligence, ransomware is where by some way or means, and again, I'm going to talk about how to prevent this stuff, but by some way or means, so, a hacker gets into your network, they lock up and encrypt your files and your database, and then they come back to you and they're like, hey, if you want to unencrypt your files, if you want your data back, you got to pay us a ransom. Usually the payment is in some type of digital currency, like Ethereum or Bitcoin. And sometimes it's not even that, maybe it's $100 or $500 for obviously larger enterprises and hospital systems, transit systems, energy providers. We've read the news. They get shut down and they have to pay ransoms in the millions of dollars. You don't want to be in a situation where you're paying a ransom, because if you do pay a ransom, who's to know that these same people aren't going to come back to you a month later and infect you again, and then ask for another ransom again. Ransomware is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It is the first industry where the hackers finally figured out how to make money from hacking. And because of that, there are just huge ransomware businesses that have sprouted up around the world, many of them in Asia, Eastern Europe, and they're the ones that are making a lot of profit on doing this. We read about the big attacks that affect large companies in the news. What we don't read about is the hundreds of thousands of ransomware attacks that occur around the world on small businesses like yours and mine. It happens all over the place. But what small business owner is going to admit to that? We don't want that to get into the press. And besides that, that's not a sexy story if some little manufacturing company got hit by a ransomware. What's exciting is if a large, well-known brand gets hit by a ransomware attack. So, it's happening all over the place. It's costing businesses billions of dollars every year. On the FBI, they rank it as one of the top 3 threats that face American businesses, and it is an ongoing thing. We're going to talk about how to protect yourself from this stuff. But you should just be aware, number one threat in 2022, I mean, it's, it continues to be ransomware attacks. That's number one. Number 2, phishing and smishing. Now, phishing oftentimes leads to ransomware attacks. What phishing is if you get an email from somebody and you click on a link in that email because the email itself looked enticing, or oh, it's an email from your bank that says there's a problem with your bank account. Click on this link so you can find out what that problem is and resolve it. A lot of times those phishing emails, they lead you to nefarious websites, which then download files or applications to your local device, which then gets into your network and either steals data, creates breaches, opens up for a data breach, or even launches a ransomware attack, which is what I just talked about. So phishing, I mean, this is not the group phish, okay? This is where, again, the hackers are basically laying out their line and they are phishing for you and me because we're unaware or ignorant as to the email itself, and we get drawn into a place that we should have gotten drawn into by clicking on something or downloading something. And once that happens, all sorts of things, are not good. And by the way, sometimes you get emails from places and they show you, like, go to a website, and then you go to the website and it's a fake website, and the website itself has got all sorts of malware, which then downloads those materials. Again, I'm going to talk to you soon about how to prevent some of this stuff, but you should be aware. Smishing, not sure if you're aware of what smishing is, but just so you know, if you notice in the word, I've capitalized the letters SMS. SMS is texting. So what's really been big in 2021, I wrote about this recently for not only Forbes, but for The Guardian. There's been a big increase in smishing attacks, which is you get a text message, SMS, right? So you get a text message, and that says, like, oh, this is Mellon Bank, texting you with some issue with your account. Click on this link so you can respond yes or no. When you click on the link, it downloads some type of file. And again, if it gets onto your phone and your phone is connected to your network, it will get onto your network, and once it gets onto your network, that's when trouble can occur. So phishing and smishing is the second biggest cyber threat that you need to be aware of in 2022. Number 3 is the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, or IoT, basically means something has a dumb object gets put a brain into it, like a chip, which sometimes makes it smarter. The biggest thing, Internet of Things, like your phone. Right? This is my phone, and before, phones were inanimate objects. Well, with the iPhone and smartphones now today, they've been getting brains. They have more power than the Apollo 11 rockets that went up or the Apollo rockets that went up in the 1960s and early 70s. These things have brains, but it's not just phones, right? It's all sorts of objects. It's equipment. It's elevators that are equipped with sensors. It's engines that are equipped with sensors. There's, in your home, you've got your Alexa device or other voice-enabled device. There's smart refrigerators. There's all have chips in them, and they're all connected to the internet. And the problem is that a lot of these chips that are connected to the internet, they're not secured very well. So people can actually, through wireless, networks, can get access to, that Internet of Thing device, which then gets you access back into the network. Some people can be driving by homes and connecting into your Alexa device and immediately get access to your home network, which might be connected to your work network. Other people, when they're outside of office buildings, can look for and find Internet of Things. I wrote a piece. It's either for The Guardian again or for Forbes. No, you know what? It was for Entrepreneur. I also write for Entrepreneur. There was a fish tank in 2020 that was attacked by hackers. The fish tank was in a casino. You see, this casino, which not to be named, had hundreds of fish tanks all around it, and they all had thermometers. And to monitor all those fish tanks, the thermometers were connected to the casino's internet. So somebody walked around with a device that could get, access, just a regular Bluetooth device that could get access to one of these fish tank thermometers. And because the thermometers, it's an Internet of Thing thing, right? I mean, it's a thermometer, but it had a chip, so it could get access to the internet. Once they got access to that thermometer in a fish tank, they got access to the casino's network and they hacked into the network, So you've got billions of these devices that are out there, and the number's even growing because they're being used in so many business applications. Unfortunately, they're also creating a giant security problem as well, so you need to be aware of that. Finally, there's reputation and reputation management. Again, with reputation, that just means that people are saying bad things, about you. People, hackers and bots get on social media and attack your business, maybe on Yelp, maybe on Google reviews, maybe on Twitter or Facebook, depending on what your business is all about. And sometimes when they launch those attacks, they will come back to your business and say, we're going to continue to launch those attacks unless you pay us to stop. Other times, they just don't do that at all. They just continue to launch their attacks. So, because of that, your reputation, obviously, among your community, among your friends, but more importantly, among your customers, can really be damaged. And I've had lots of clients that, I don't know, the owner of the company, had some political leanings or whatever. So whoever disagreed with them politically launched an attack on them and basically shut down their business on Yelp, which they relied on for reviews and getting business just because they had some type of political reviews. That's a reputation management issue, and it will continue to be a big issue in 2022. So, as you see up here, ransomware, phishing, smishing, Internet of Things, reputation management. There's like the 4 big cyber issues that you're going to be looking at this year, and just want to make sure that you're aware of them, okay? Now, let's talk about the meat and potatoes of this presentation. And the meat and the potatoes is, how do you protect yourself against this? And the title of this presentation is 8 ways to protect yourself and your business from these attacks. And again, I know this is like the 8th time I've said it, but we're not eliminating all of these issues. We just want to reduce the risks of these issues happening into your business. So to reduce those risks, you need to be doing these 8 things. And by the way, spoiler alert, bad news for you, it's going to cost you a little money because this is something that you've got to do to protect yourself. So number one is this. Number one is this. It's training. When study after study has found that the number one cause for any type of cyber issue or data breach or infiltration is because of user error. It's because you and me are dopes. I mean, let's just admit it, right? I mean, we don't know. I mean, when somebody sends me an email and it seems to be from a customer or from my bank or whatever, I mean, like, most of the time I can pick it up, but sometimes I can't. This is like my job. Like, I cover technology for a living, and yet this is something that sometimes this stuff gets by me as well. So oftentimes, users are duped into downloading something or going to a bad website or responding to something that is a problem. Just recently in Saudi Arabia, it's one of the Middle Eastern countries, there's a large bank that was there where an employee was duped. They received a phone call from what they thought was the CEO, because now the voice technology is such a way that you can imitate and mimic other people's voices. Some hacker developed some way to mimic the CEO of the bank's voice, called up like the CFO or the controller and said, we need to transfer $1 million from this account into that account. And the controller went, I don't know, it sounds like the CEO, I'm right on it, boss, and transferred the money out of there, which was, and it was to a hacker. So those issues are going to continue to get bigger and bigger. Again, there's ways to protect yourself, but the number one way to protect yourself is getting trained. So I'm going to share with you at the end of this presentation a bunch of software tools to use, okay? So I won't go into that now, but one thing I can tell you is this. Your IT firm, you want to hire them this year to provide training to your employees, probably on a quarterly basis. And I mean like getting together with your employees in a group or in an online call and saying, this is the latest and greatest type of phishing issues that are out there. These are the things you should be looking at. These are things you need to be aware of, just to remind us how to identify malware and bad actors that are out there. Protecting your business, invest in training, okay? Make sure that we're all aware of what we're looking at, because all you need is one employee to let something slip through the cracks, and then you've got real trouble. So that's number one, okay? Number two, obviously you're downloading security software. I'm going to recommend a few at the end of this presentation, okay? But some thoughts on security software, okay? It's kind of like now, like you can't not have it because then you look like you're being like irresponsible for not having security software. To me, the use of security software is somewhat limited in the sense that these makers are always finding out after the fact that there was a problem, right? But the better security applications, and again, I'm going to give you some names at the end. The minute they find out that there's a type of ransomware going around, or a malware, or a virus, or whatever, they will upgrade their systems to identify that. And the best ones have continuous upgrades down to their users. So if you subscribe to a good security software application, you should be getting updates from them very frequently, because there's always new attacks and new variants happening, right? Of different viruses and different types of malware. So they're behind the 8 ball, but hopefully if you download the most recent version, you can be set to automatically download that. And you haven't been impacted by any of these attacks, you'll be secured against any of those attacks going forward. So it's something that you should have. And again, it's the kind of thing, security software, if you ever do have an attack and some lawyer is coming after what were you doing to protect our client's data that was on your systems? If you say like, oh, well, we didn't have any security software installed, it's not a good checkbox to leave unchecked, So it is something that you should have. So that's the second thing that you want to be doing, okay? Number 3, password management. We've all heard the jokes about people using passwords of 1, 2, 3, 4. Passwords obviously still remain. I'm going to talk about other methods of getting access to data, but still remain the number one way that we're getting access to data now is with our passwords. And let's face it. I'll speak personally, but I know it's the same with you. Like, we're all lazy with our passwords. Like we choose a password. Sometimes we even share it with family and friends. And we don't change it. We have so many different sites and applications that we're going to that to maintain and remember all those passwords is really a pain it's just a pain in the butt. But we have to change our ways, and it's up to us to do that. Now, there are some really good password management applications, which again I'm going to share a few of them with you at the end of this presentation. But passwords need to be changed. They need to be changed frequently. Not only that, but the passwords that you're using should be complex. I mean, obviously, it shouldn't be 1, 2, 3, 4. People make jokes about that. The going thought is that you use phrases with your passwords. Like the Phillies will never win a World Series in 2022. Or Mariah Carey, is a great singer. Like a full phrase that you can use. And if you can sprinkle in an exclamation point or an asterisk, in there as well, or some other type of symbol, that also provides it more secure. So don't just do like a 5 or a 6-digit password. It should be like a long thing, something that's longer that you have to type out, that uses both characters and some symbols. Something you can remember. But again, these password management apps, again, I'm gonna share with you what they do in a minute. They're excellent. But you've got to have that. And you've got to have that over all your employees. At the very least, your network should be requiring employees to change their passwords at least every 30 days. Because that will keep them at least on the ball for doing that. And if you get training from an IT firm, they can also give you some ideas of some good passwords to use, okay? So password management, another important thing. Related to passwords is multi-factor authentication. It's absolutely required that you should have it. Just again, I don't want to insult your intelligence, but multi-factor authentication is where you go to your bank, right, and you log into your bank. You ask for a password. It then comes to a screen saying we're going to send you a text message with a PIN, with a 4-digit code. You get the text message, and then you enter that code in. It's multi-factor, right? It's passwords and then another factor to get in. So it's two, multi. Sometimes people require more than two. It's absolutely essential to have in any business. So to get access to your network person, whoever's managing your data, your applications, they need to be setting it up for multi-factor authentication. So every time somebody is logging into one of your applications or in your system, you are being asked for not only just a password, but also a PIN to enter in. Now, ultimately, a lot of it's going to be changed with biometrics in the coming years. It'll be eye scans, fingerprints, facial recognition. It's coming. It's just we're talking about 2022 right now, so it ain't happening in 2022, at least on not like a wide-scale basis. So multi-factor authentication is really the next best thing. And also, I also have to tell you, because I listen to these podcasts that get really deep into the weeds on technology and security, and there are many instances where if a hacker wants to hack into your cell phone, if they want to go to Verizon or AT&T and impersonate you and get your cell phone so that the PIN comes to them, and then they can get access to your, that can happen. It's not 100%, I guess is what I'm saying, which is why I think ultimately passwords and multi-factor authentication will ultimately go away for, like, again, a fingerprint or an eye scan, because those are biometrics are a much more powerful way to give security. But at the very least, you want to make sure you have those levels. One or two other things about multi-factor authentication. If you have Microsoft Office, you can set multi-factor authentication on a file-by-file basis. So if you can have it in your network, and then if you've got like a confidential file or you've got a confidential spreadsheet with customer information or whatever on it, you can set it up for multi-factor authentication on that. So if somebody wants to enter that spreadsheet, they not only have to enter a password, but then get a PIN sent to them so that they enter in that further ID. Just to be aware that Office does that. I think G Suite does that as well, but just be aware that that's a feature that you might want to take advantage of. So there are 8 ways to protect yourself. I've gone through half of them right now. It's just all things that you need to make sure that you are doing. Let's talk about number 5, which is backing up your data. Now, if you're hosting your data, and I'll talk about managed service providers, they should be taking care of all the backups for you. I have some clients that even if they're hosting their data or they're using cloud-based applications, they're still backing up their data. Even if you're using a cloud-based CRM like a Salesforce or a Zoho, those services provide you backups of your data. You should have multiple backups of your data. It should be done on at least on a weekly basis, hopefully more than that. The idea there is that if you do get infiltrated, if you get a ransomware attack where they encrypt, they lock up your data, if you've got data separately stored somewhere else, you can then restore from that backed up database. So I'm going to share with you some good backup services in a bit, but just it's just another thing you want to make sure that you are doing those backups. It's another form of protection. If you do get attacked or you do get breached, you can restore from a good backed up database. Okay. Number 6, virtual private networks or VPNs. Now VPNs, I have one now that I travel. And you talk about travel, so let's talk about travel. I fly frequently. I stay in a lot of hotels, all around the country. I used to not be on a VPN, which is ridiculous, but literally just in the past 2 years. And again, I'm going to share with you some VPN software. When you have software that's on your laptop, when you log into an airport, your router or their Wi-Fi or your hotel's Wi-Fi, they are so unprotected and unsecured. I don't even want to go there. I mean, they're very unprotected. So people can not only get there, but then they can get not only to your laptop, because it is it's like a way right in. With a virtual private network, what it does is it connects your laptop, where you are locally. You go out to their server first, and then it connects you back to your hotel, the hotel Wi-Fi as it is. So what it's doing is that it's got encrypted all of the data going back and forth. So if anybody, gets into that Wi-Fi in your hotel and they want to get to your laptop, they can't find you because your laptop is basically invisible. It doesn't know where your laptop is because as far as they know, your laptop is coming off a server somewhere else in the middle of the country, if that makes sense. So because of a VPN, you've got this little virtual private network that you are now accessing, that's then accessing the Wi-Fi network that's unsecured in a Starbucks or a hotel or in an airport. You're really protected from hackers coming back and finding your computer. And because you're encrypted, whatever browsing that you're doing online, this is most important. Wherever you are, you're logging in places, you're entering into websites, you might be doing banking or financial transactions or anything like that. Well, if somebody's got access to the Wi-Fi in your hotel and you're doing that stuff, they can't get access to all that stuff you're doing because all of the stuff you're doing back and forth is encrypted because it's going to this other server through this, through the VPN service. So they can't steal your passwords. They can't steal your ID. So it's really super important that if you are traveling and you are mobile, get VPN. VPN software, it's like $10 a month, or some of them are even less. Don't get a free one, pay. And I'm going to recommend a few good ones for you, but it has a huge impact on your privacy as well. So by all means, make sure that you are using a VPN wherever you are. And by the way, if you don't have VPN software, connect to the internet through your cell phones, your wireless carriers, because that's VPN. So I've got my phone and I've got my mobile hotspot access through my phone. If I'm in an airport and I didn't, and I don't have VPN for some reason, my software, I don't have it available, I would connect directly through my Verizon service is what I use because that's secure. I'm not going through the airport's Wi-Fi service. I'm doing it through my own mobile hotspot, which is encrypted and secure. So either get VPN software or use your mobile hotspot access is the best way to secure yourself. Two more things. Managed service providers. Okay, to me, I don't know why people are still hosting stuff. They still got their own networks internally. It blows my mind. It is so much more costly and inefficient with hardware to have database and application on a server in your office. All of my smartest clients are they're moving it all out and letting somebody else host it for them. And I'm going to recommend a few managed service providers for you. But just be aware, nowadays, whether, you're running QuickBooks, you're running a CRM, you've got an Access database, you've got some internal order entry system, whatever, fine. You can move it from your existing server and have somebody else host it for you. And when they're hosting it for you, there's managed service providers. If you get a good one, they're providing all the security. They've got the security software. They're doing the backups. They're running the tests. They're doing the monitoring. They're doing all that kind of stuff. So, and again, it's not 100% guaranteed, but this is what they do for a living. So, they charge you for it. It's a monthly fee, but then you don't have to worry about it. And the bigger services, a lot of IT firms offer this, and then they host their client stuff on Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure. And all of those online cloud services, they have the latest and greatest technology that's out there that provides security for this data. That's their business model. So again, not 100% guaranteed, but so much better than if you're doing this on your own. So if you're not already, get everything out. You shouldn't have a server in your company. You should have routers and Wi-Fi that just gets you to a server where your data is hosted by a good, reputable managed services provider. They'll take care of the security for you. Okay. One final thing, and just absolutely critical, is upgrading your operating system. Because of work from home, the amount of ransomware attacks in 2020 and 2021 have increased by more than 200%. And I know why. Because you and me are working from home. We're sharing our computers with our high school kids. God knows what they've been doing. It's connected to an unsecured network. The best thing that you can do in your network at home is to have a separate Wi-Fi for personal and a separate Wi-Fi for when you're doing company business. I mean, that's the more secure thing to do, okay? But people don't normally do that. So what the hackers are doing is they've got millions of bots that are, as I'm speaking, there are millions of bots that are trolling the internet right now. And you know what they're looking for? They're looking for home computers where people are working from home and accessing their corporate drives, their corporate networks, and they're running, out-of-date operating systems. They're running Windows 98 or older versions of Mac, iOS, or they're running, older versions of Android if you've got, one of the Chromebooks that you're using. So, and when they find them, that's when they attack. So, the best thing that you can do is make sure that your employees are running the most recent versions of their device's operating system. Now, this gets back to the training and maybe hiring an IT firm to help you out, because an IT firm can monitor all of this stuff. And you say, listen, if you're going to work from home, we're going to have to give our IT firm access to your computer. That's part of the deal if you're working from home. Part of the monitoring they're going to be doing is to make sure that you're running the most recent version of Windows or iOS or whatever you're using. And you can set it so that these upgrades happen automatically. Don't blow them off. Don't let them not happen. Each upgrade from Apple, from Microsoft, from Google, they have the latest and greatest security. Now, again, not 100% guarantee, but the hackers that are out there, they've got, they're looking for easy access, low-hanging fruit. So if they come across your computer and they see you're running the most recent version of Windows, it's not like they can't probably hack into it, but it's going to take them more time and effort. Why bother with that when your neighbor next door is accessing their corporate network and they're running Windows 95 or for God knows what, So they're looking for the low-hanging fruit. You want to give them every incentive to leave you alone. And one of the best things you can do is making sure that you're running the most recent version of your operating system. These are the 8 things you need to do to protect your business this year. And, sometimes I do these lists and I'm like, yeah, you could do this or do that or pick a few, whatever. You need to be doing all of these. Every single one of these things should be, that's your goal for 2022. Get onto it and you'll protect yourself. Now, I promised you, so let me share with you quickly just some advice on some of the software that I use or that my clients find popular. I don't want to say this is a be-all and end-all, so if you've got something else you want to use, you want to go out and do your research, by all means, but these are just some suggestions for you when it comes to software. I talked about training. I talked about hiring an IT firm to provide that training. These are 3 great training softwares that you can also get. KnowBe4, InfoSec, Proofpoint. You pay a monthly fee. You answer a bunch of questions about the type of things that you want to be protected about. And what these applications do is they test your employees. I have clients that use these 3 applications and they get phishing emails sent by one of the applications. They don't know it's coming from the application, just to test them to see if they click on the link or if they do something wrong. And then that way Helen over in accounts payable, she got fooled by that email, so we want to make sure she gets trained and can recognize this in the future. So these training softwares are really, really good on an ongoing basis to just randomly and regularly test your employees that they're up to speed on the different type of phishing and ransomware scams that are out there, so that when a real one happens, they're prepared and they will notice it. So that's training softwares that I can recommend. Password management. I use Keeper. LastPass and 1Password is also one that's out there. So we have a Keeper account for all of our employees, like a corporate account, right? So everybody puts their passwords into Keeper. To get access to Keeper, you need to go through, authentication process with a multi-factor authentication, which I'll give you some recommendations on that as well. So all the passwords are with Keeper. Then Keeper not only it suggests a password to be used. So it'll tell me if I'm logging into an account. It'll tell me, hey, that's a pretty weak password. Can we suggest something more complex? And they will suggest, trust me, a complex password. And then you can set it up so that going on whenever you log in, it will automatically fill out the password for you. So you have to obviously you can't remember these passwords; they're so crazy. But you can also just go back into Keeper if you're using Chrome or most of the popular browsers. Keeper as an add-on where you can just access it right from the browser if you need to check on a password. But it's just that one place that everybody can share their passwords if they want to or not. It'll provide very, very strong passwords as well and give you the ability to change it. And it will test your passwords to make sure that they are, that they remain strong. Keeper, LastPass, 1Password. There's a bunch of good password management applications out there. These are 3 of them that I just see among my clients. Now, I mentioned multi-factor authentication. So I use Google Authenticate So you can download that. Just go into your Google Play Store. There are other applications that are similar to this. What Google Authenticate does is, if I every time I want to log in to to Keeper, for example, Keeper requires an authentication key. So you can set up Keeper with Google Authenticate. And every time I go into Keeper, I put in my password, and then it comes back to me and says, okay, thanks for your password. Now we also need an authentication key. And I got to go to the Google Authenticate application, and it gives me a new key each time. Because that's connected into Keeper, when I put the key in, Keeper says, yeah, that's the authentication key, and lets me into Keeper. So Authenticate, will connect with thousands of different applications out there and provide you like a third-party secondary way for you to get access into an application. It's very powerful. It's free. It's very, very good. The other thing I like is YubiKey. A lot of companies, Google, for example, you would think they would trust Google Authenticate, and I guess they do in some cases, but if you work for Google and you go into their applications, you type in a password, and then it will say, okay, well, we need to authenticate you. You've got to have a little key, like YubiKey is one of the makers, that you put in your USB drive, and it gives you an authentication number, which you then have to put in. And then when you're done, you take that key out and you literally carry it around with you. So it's not online or anything. It's like a hardware device that's generating this authentication for you to get access into an application. That is what Google uses. Microsoft, Amazon uses very, very similar. External keys, USB keys that people have to plug into their device. And all I can say is if this is what the big tech companies are doing, you might want to consider it yourself for you and your employees. They're inexpensive. I think they're like $20 to $30 per unit. But it's like just an external way to authenticate an application rather than relying on something that could get hacked online. Okay. Other software suggestions, I mentioned security software. I use Malwarebytes. Kaspersky is very popular. Symantec is very popular. Malwarebytes for me, again, it's every day it's downloading updates. Every day it's checking on it. I always get warnings if I'm visiting a website that's questionable or sketchy. So, like I said earlier, they're all a little bit behind, right? Because the threat's got to be out there first before they know about it. So somebody's being attacked. But once they are aware of it, they get it out to all of their customers, and the customers themselves can use it to the extent they can. So those are three good security software applications that I know my clients use. Backup, I talked about that before. Carbonite's a really good online backup. But listen, Dropbox, Google, OneDrive all provide automatic synchronization and backup to their file servers. So we use that in our company as our backup in addition to what's being provided by managed service providers. And then I mentioned also reputation management. Both Birdeye, Podium, Mention, they will warn you and tell you if, whenever your company or you individually are being mentioned online, and you can pay for that service. So, I use Mention, I subscribe to it, and every day I get an email saying whenever they find me being mentioned anywhere, and I write a bunch of different places and, social and all of that. And I periodically look at these emails because I'm like, I just want to see if anybody's saying anything like crazy about me or attacking me or something that might be wrong that can hurt my reputation. So those are three good sort of monitoring softwares of the internet that can just let you know. Another one that I put up here is just Google Alerts. It's free. And Google Alerts, you set an alert for your name or for your company. Every day you'll get an email alerting you whenever Google Alerts, you're mentioned online. These three applications I think go a little bit deeper into a lot of the different social sites as well. Just a few more. I mentioned VPNs and virtual private networks. I use TunnelBear on one device, and I use Ivacy on another device. Cisco is also very, very popular. Both TunnelBear and Ivacy, again, honestly, I think they're like $10 a month or something. I mean, they're pretty inexpensive. And I feel pretty darn secure. I mean, I go and I travel, and I turn on my laptop. TunnelBear comes right up. It's very cute. It's like a little bear. It will tell me if it can't connect for some reason. Usually it does. But it literally shows you a little graphic, a cartoon of what it's doing, which means it's connected. Even though I'm in a hotel in New York, it's connecting me to their secure server in Omaha and then back again to the hotel, and I've been encrypted. So nobody can know what I'm doing online or be able to steal my passwords or my personal information. That's what they do. They're relatively inexpensive, and they really do increase your security, particularly if you're moving around to different places. Finally, I mentioned managed services providers. I work with and I know a company called Right Networks. They provide great managed service providers. I have to just give them a big shout out. They will take all of they specialize in QuickBooks, but they do all applications and databases. They will take it all, they will host it, they will secure it, they will back it up, they will make sure everybody's connected to it. They're not perfect, none of them are, but trust me when I tell you, they'll do a much better job at managing your data and your applications and securing it all than you ever could. If you have a good IT firm that you're working with, most of the good IT people I know nowadays, they offer these services to their clients. And all they're really doing is they're like a conduit to either Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure. So they're partners. So they'll take your data or whatever, and they'll host it on those services, which again are as secure can be. And then they'll be the administrator of it and be in the middle, so you can continue to work with your IT firm. But they're taking responsibility for your data and your applications. So those are the suggestions that I have. Now, before I leave you, before I sum things up, okay, Jotform. Thank you for sponsoring this presentation. Jotform, I use it. I have tons of clients that use Jotform. Online applications, like an ecosystem for all users to manage their data, one workspace within one company, collaboration, forms, data, and tools. You can build your own forms. They've recently launched new products where you can create like an all-in-one workspace for all of your users. Very inexpensive, very, very powerful. You could have a PDF editor for document generation. It provides mobile forms. You can do reports out of it. You can build tables and spreadsheets. It's just a great all-around workforce collaboration tool. And I know all of our employees are working from home and all over the place. It's a very inexpensive way that you can manage your employees. So let me, I should have put this in as the last slide, but if you don't mind me, let's just go down to that just very quickly. These are the 8 things you're going to do to protect your business, okay? You're going to provide training for your employees. You're going to have to pay extra. Get them trained every quarter. Get the security software that I recommended as well, so at least it's monitoring on an ongoing thing. Password management like Keeper or LastPass or OnePass so that your employees can get really strong passwords and have one place to update them. Multi-factor authentication. Use Google Authenticate or one of those USB keys. But at the very least, set up multi-factor authentication so it's not just a password that needs access, but a PIN sent to a separate cell phone, right? Doing backups, very, very important, even if it's the Dropbox or Google Drive. Having VPN software for any of your mobile users as they're moving around. VPN will encrypt their data, but going back and forth, and that will protect their identity and any of the personal information to get access to your network. So make sure they're all using VPN software. Host your data with a good managed service provider. I mentioned Right Networks, but your IT firms might be able to recommend somebody that they like. Again, they've got the tools and the resources to provide much better security than you're probably doing internally. And finally, you got to make sure that everybody is updating their operating systems. Invest in an IT firm to ensure that they are doing just that. So operating system upgrades, very, very important. That way people cannot get into your data or hack your data in any way. So I'm going to flip all the way through to the very end. I should have put that as the last slide. Talked about Jotform. Thank you. So to visit me on Forbes, go to forbes.com/quicker-better-tech. You can follow me there, and every week you'll find out what the most recent technology is that week that will impact your business, and I'll give you a little thoughts on why and how that impacts your business. This is my name, my email address. If you have any questions or want any more recommendations, and please follow me on Twitter as well. I keep my clients, my followers, all up to date on anything small business, including technology, on Twitter. So I want to thank you very much. Hope I kept you awake during all of this. Do all of those 8 things to secure your company's data. You're not guaranteed, but it will significantly reduce your risk. Again, thanks for watching. Hopefully, I'll see you again in the future. Take care.